Hey, hello and welcome. Who is ready to taste the future? All right. Okay, it is a joy and honor to welcome you to Bombs and Bars annual Imminent Future of Food and Drink 2026. So thank you all very much for attending here in the room today and on stream as well. I was going to start off by outlining why it is we do this, why it is we gather today at the start of the year and start talking about the future. And some of it is about predicting it, but what I really like is with the people here today, we get to make it happen. I'm interested in hyperstition. I'm interested in the third mind. Do you know what third mind is? Third mind is when you have a conversation with someone else, a new brain comes between you and create. So meetings can be really cool, basically, is the thing. If you do the meeting right, they can also be dark. But if you do the meeting right, you can come up with something that no one has ever imagined yet. And that's hopefully what we're going to create tonight. All of our minds gathering together, and above us, a giant, phantasmagoric third mind materializing as your brain melds with Alex's. And if we do it right, come speak to us at the end and let's make some of those things happen. So, over the next 40 minutes or so, you're going to see what happens when the work of the studio strategy team collides with that of the development kitchen. You're going to taste some things. And I was actually going to ask as well, who's been to one of these things before? Can you put your hand up? Okay, quite a lot. If you haven't been as well, you'll know that we really like very active audience participation as well. And for that active audience participation, we reward the best question at the end, with a mega prize. And I always promise big on a mega prize. Normally, the mega prize is actually a bit crap. This year, I think the mega prize is really good. And I'm just so confident of it, I'm going to unveil it as well. So you get a Sea Monsters Ocean Zoo, which has the world's only instant pets. So if you ask the best question, start thinking now. Yeah, let's get a woo for the world's only instant pets. So yeah, so start thinking of questions as we start. Alex starts taking you through her predictions and insights into the future. But before we do that, there's an awful lot of people to thank. I'm going to start with that, and then we'll get stuck into the meat of it. But first and foremost, thank you so much to our hosts this evening, Samsung. I just feel like I'm bathing in. This is the world's biggest curved screen in Europe. It is quite incredible. So thank you to Kinga, Letitia. You've been absolutely brilliant to work with as well, putting it together. So important question: who likes drinking? I thought that would be more. Who likes drinking? Okay, great. So thank you to Yeni Raku for the cocktails as well. And I think, what did everyone think? What does everyone think of them as well? Yeah, like that, they're great. Like they're really good. I think the Raku team are in the house as well. So if you want an intro to learn more about the history of the brand, shout out. Now, really big thanks. The person I'm going to introduce you to in a second. So the creative strategy director, Alex Cherubra, leads our strategy team and is going to be the host for tonight as well. She's really remarkable. Pay attention to every word. And then seeing where her insights collide with that of the Innovation Kitchen. And Bambi Bakewell has been doing some quite strange and wonderful things in the kitchen, which you'll get to taste. So 3 great tasters for your experienced palates later on today. Also, a really big thank you to the wider studio. I love that it's kind of basically the second weekend of the year, and this is already our second event as well, and it's just wonderful fermenting and fostering ideas with you. So Mimi, who's put together tonight, Claire, who I think many of you have been contacted to come tonight, actually, Sophia and Ava as well, who's just there and is intern at the moment. I think, is this first event, second event? Second event already, and it's just started this year, so it's going brilliantly. And also all of the wider studio who've stepped in. Just absolutely love getting to work with you every single day. Someone asked me, I think Rami, you asked me like how was Christmas, and I was like, actually, it's a bit boring, like because we get really excited to come back and meet everyone and start work afterwards because it's just really good. But finally, thank you all for attending, either in person or down the line. You are the friends, the collaborators, the people we're inspired by, and also, hopefully, after today, the people we get to work with in the future. Any notes on housekeeping? The bathrooms are over there afterwards. Hopefully, you've made a new friend with the person you're sitting next to. Might want to share a drink with them. We'll open the bar up, I think. We'll try. But yeah, chat with them afterwards. Go for dinner with them. And now, here we go. We're going to move on to the main presentation. Please give a terrific round of applause for Alex, who will take you into the future. Alex!
Thank you, Sam. That was a very wonderful intro. I was just looking at the slide and I can't believe it's 2026. The first time we were here was 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020. And I did cough through the entire presentation, so I'm really hoping that today is going to be a lot better than that. So, as Sam mentioned, I'm Alex, Creative Strategy Director at Bumpers and Par. If you'd like to share about this evening, please tag us at Bumpers and Par. Make sure you tag this beautiful and amazing innovative venue, Samsung King's Cross, and you can hashtag FOFD 2026. So we first started writing this report, I think, around kind of 6 years ago. Back then, we were talking about brain implants. We were talking about hypertablescaping. Hypertablescaping, I think, has officially it's up there. It's kind of been and gone up that kind of trend innovation curve and back down again. So it's been really interesting to kind of reflect on that original report that we were presenting here 6 years ago. This year's report, we're talking about via our new kind of consultancy arm, which we're calling Sense Tank. So this is our studio's consultancy arm that aims to disrupt thinking with a remarkable approach to storytelling. So this is where all of our kind of insights are coming from. It's where we're thinking about disruptive ideas. The world is very noisy at the minute, and we are here to cut through that noise and make some relevant noise and hopefully inspire change in everyone. And if if everyone wants to take one thing from tonight, I hope that you'll take just one idea from this presentation and try and make that change happen with the team at Bumps and Par. So on to tonight, we're looking at what we might be eating and drinking in the imminent future. So what we consume, where we consume it, and how we consume it is now inextricably linked to how we shape culture today. So since writing Bumps and Par's annual Imminent Future of Food and Drink reports, we've seen food and drink become a signifier of really kind of what's happening in wider culture. Food's really become a platform for talking about subjects from fashion to politics. What we drink on a night out and therefore post on social media has become a signifier really of one's personality. Food is in film and film is in food. Fandoms are shaping a need to pull food from the screen and onto our plates. So what we consume is creating culture, and culture is really defining what we consume. So as you can hear and see, it's a merry-go-round of food and drink-based entertainment. So as you know, and if you've been to our talks before, you know that our approach for this report is remaining steady, and that we go beyond those kind of regular food and drink reports that you might have already been reading to really draw back the curtain on what you'll be eating and drinking shortly. We don't write reports to regurgitate trends that have already been written, but rather to predict what might be happening in the future through a zeitgeist lens of cultural happenings and culinary prowess. So this year's set of predictions have been written following a year of kind of upheavals across technology and politics. I'm sure we've all heard the world is in permacrisis. We're all living through it. So seeking pleasure in what we eat and drink is really becoming more important than ever has been before. AI is taking over technology platforms, and simultaneously what we read and write about, it's leading us to reconsider how we interact with people, with brands and technologies. And that's really led to this kind of drive for emotionally fueled interactions, being with what you're shopping for or what you're eating. So emotion is becoming like the driver for creative responses to briefs, and something that hopefully AI can't beat. And it's cultural moments like these that have helped put together the 6 predictions within this report. And it's really written by the team at Bumps and Par. We like to believe that we're experts in culture, food, drink, the multisensory, and experiences. So this comes from, years of reading and living and breathing food, drink, and culture. So on to our 6 predictions for tonight. So we're going to go through from TV dinners to fresh luxury dystopia, ending on some beans. All to be revealed very shortly. We're going to have some tasters, so the team are going to hand around some food and drink samples as well. So first prediction, TV dinners and the TV campfire. So we've been looking at surveys, and apparently it is reported that adults have a 55% higher likelihood of feeling sadness when consuming video content on mobile phones compared to TV sets. So in parallel, traditional TV viewing was associated with a 52% greater likelihood of feeling relaxed. So in a world of permacrisis, our phone addictions are actually making us sadder. So is it time that TV viewing was actually revived? So we were thinking about this, and we were thinking about kind of how we're all looking for kind of these frictionless moments, but TV would actually offer a friction-filled viewing experience that is not tailored to you. So on a surface level, that sounds pretty dreadful in a world where we're automatically delivered what we need and what we want in an instant. Perhaps TV is the solution that's always been sitting in the corner of a room to open our reality tunnels again. And that's something that we spoke about in The Future of Pleasure a couple of years ago, this idea that sort of content is closing our reality tunnels and we need to open them. We want to be made happier and to bring families together, and perhaps a TV dinner can be our cultural campfire moment. So we're talking about re-entering the world through TV dinners. So we know that the TV dinner was originally created as a convenient, affordable solution for busy families. So the first TV dinner being a turkey meal sold in an aluminium tray. And it was also launched because an increasing number of families were sitting down to watch TV together, and it sold 10 million in its first year. So fast forward to 2026, our lives are busier and convenience still sits at the forefront of desires. And we like to think if Maslow's hierarchy of needs was written today, convenience would probably sit proudly at the very bottom of that triangle. We believe that the TV dinner has the opportunity to really take off again, but with a modern twist, with healthier, adaptogen-filled and story-led foods. Our relationship with TV has actually already been changing. So take Netflix's recent launch of Netflix House, which is a real physical immersion into the TV worlds that have entered our consumer stream of consciousness. We're expecting to see what we see on screen in real life, and the TV dinner has the opportunity to bring TV IPs into the home. So this could be that antidote that we all need to those endless algorithmic feeds. Watching TV with a TV dinner will provide a friction-fueled joy fest that can be consumed together. So that's nothing new, but if we look to the future of the TV dinner that responds to those consumer drivers around emotion, the tension between friction and automation, and that desire to experience fandoms, then TV dinners start to look rather interesting. So how might we see that show up? We believe we'll see TV dinner box sets. So imagine, what if Netflix started selling TV dinners in your local Tesco, complete with foods to match a show? So you could imagine a Stranger Things retro-inspired meal, allowing for those storyscapes to really enter the home. Some consumers are already willing to pay $100 just for an Erewhon smoothie. So consumers are willing to invest in those food-based experiences that they can enjoy on the go or at home. We've also done lots of research into ingredients that can enhance a person's emotive state. So we imagine an episode of Stranger Things being consumed with a TV dinner designed to actually give you goosebumps. And to top it all off, to make things environmentally friendly, TV dinner packaging could be made entirely edible through using algae binders, meaning no waste at the end of the show. On this same kind of trend prediction, we were looking at TV dinner restaurants. So what if restaurants started collaborating with media brands, creating dining experiences with restaurants lined floor to ceiling with TVs, allowing for guests to book in to watch TV and have a great meal with it, all within a very social setting. So what if restaurants became the new cinema for shows, with premieres hosted in Gymkhana, or even in a TV-lined local cafe? TV hugely shapes culture, and so bringing TV into shared social spaces will create opportunity for a cultural zeitgeist to happen. So from TV dinners and into the gastro void. So convenience, body hacks, and deepfakes, they all sound like ingredients for a dystopian future outlined in a Steven Spielberg film, but it actually defines the culture that we're living through in 2026. According to WGSN, 90% of all online content could be AI generated by 2026, well, this year. A scary stat that also raises questions about really what is truth and what is not. Deepfakes will become ever present in the media and across our social platforms. But how does this link to food and drink? So couple this with the fact that in the UK alone, 28% of people are actively trying to lose weight, stated they'd be willing to try weight loss injections in the future. And we start to wonder what could happen to food and drink served by restaurants in order to meet the demand of our ever-shrinking stomachs. Will we say goodbye to the three-course meal? Does a plate of food even exist? Or are fibrous filling textures replaced by liquid fakes? So the last decade has really been defined by convenience. The 2010s saw the Uberification of pretty much any service you could think of. Faster ways to get what you need in an instant. So from taxis to groceries to restaurant experiences. With automation now being at the top of minds, from Amazon shopping to driverless cars, our need for convenience really doesn't seem to be slowing. So if food and drink are to become even more convenient, are we at risk of shortcutting the basic principles of cooking? The joy of sourcing ingredients, preparing a meal, and serving an elegantly dressed table of friends in favour of getting what we want faster, but minus the calories so that we don't fill up our ever-shrinking stomachs. So this culture really is an entanglement of potentially dystopian measures, all centred around human desires to look better, go faster, consume entertainment, no matter what the source is. So how will we see this show up across food and drink? So we were having a chat and we thought that what about this idea of simulacrum soup and calorie bypass? So with Ozempic seeping through the veins of over 1 million people in the UK alone, simulacrum soup is an idea that plays with the impression of food and drink. If we don't want to be filled up by the food and their calories, is a future about bypassing calories completely and creating the experience of eating and drinking. Will we see chefs pivot to studying the actual layers that make up a dish, the names, the origins, the authenticity, appearance, photos, smells, and taste, while diving into the psychological and physiological aspects of eating, from the mouthfeel to brain signals? The result would be a series of edible materials that deliver the feeling of eating, but without the calories. So this means that you can have your cake without eating it, yet experiencing the full pleasure of the stickiness of the icing, the fruitiness of the jam, and the moistness of the sponge. That opens further dialogue up around sense hacking, with the best hackers being able to liken their material to a Michelin-starred dish. So will chefs actually become tech experts and vice versa? So we've been looking at how this might come to life, what these edible materials might actually look like. So there's one school of thought around max hydration subfoods. So a trend in whole ingredients that actually deliver volume, hydration, texture, satisfaction, intentionally quiet to reduce sensory overstimulation. We'll look at foods with high water content that increase gastric fullness and prolonged chewing. So those are subtle bitter notes will further temper appetite without creating that binge-like overconsumption. So we might look at ingredients like cucumber, daikon, tofu, whitefish, cooked grains, all chosen for stomach occupancy, prolonged chewing, and that very low calorie density. So this is all about self-regulation over indulgence. We've also explored the idea of edible films. So people often want the sensation of eating without the consumption itself. Edible films is a new concept in eating, which involves films and mouth coating textures that actually simulate the afterfeel of one's mouth after having eaten a large amount of food. So we're starting to hand around some of these edible films now, so you can all try one. These are meant to almost be like a culinary version of nicotine replacement. And I will just have to go on to the next slide and just warn you that these are not suitable for vegetarians or vegans, I'm afraid. Very sad. I can't try one myself. Everything has been prepared in the kitchen, which handles all of the allergens as well. So just a note so we don't cause any damage to anyone. But yeah, so these are our edible films. They're made to stimulate the saliva to thicken, curating a coating that lingers after eating fats or starches and has a slight resistance to emulate a lot of chewing. So the team are just passing those around now, and I'm going to hand over to Bambi, who's going to come and talk about the void matter that is being passed around. Bambi's our wonderful chef, by the way.
Hi everyone. So for these edible films, we're looking at the feeling of sort of when you've had a whole roast dinner and your mouth gets a little bit claggy and sort of overly salty. Looking more at the future, I suppose, of taste, of actually eating food, so that we can kind of trick our brains into feeling like we've eaten, but we haven't. And that was generally the idea of it, but it should sort of taste a little bit like roast chicken. And I hope you like a bit of roast chicken. After Christmas, anyway, you might be a bit over it. I'll pass it back to Alex.
Thank you, Bambi. So roast chicken flavored film, and hopefully you've been filled up by some dinner already, and you can still enjoy your roast chicken because it's a simple piece of what we're calling void matter. Has everyone got their edible film, their void matter? Okay, amazing. So from edible films, void matter, talking about those kind of Ozempic diets, we move into fresh luxury dystopia, and this is all about looking at the kind of new high-low culture. So sadly, one of the biggest tensions in the consumption of food and drink is the problem with processed foods versus their lack of nutrition versus their affordability. In UK, adults, 57% of daily energy intake actually derives from these ultra-processed foods, with an even higher proportion seen in adolescents of 66%. So this got us thinking, are we actually entering a world where true freshness is really only for the high net worth individuals of the world? In Japan, there's a market for luxury fruits where perfection and precision in growing innovative fruits has created a luxury market for the fruits for those kind of high net worth individuals, such as square watermelons or the world's first ever cultivated white strawberries. And you can see some of those this lady is proudly displaying here, including some of those square watermelons. We know that consumers will fork out around £80 for a surprise square watermelon. The fruits are generally presented quite beautifully in wrapped boxes, and they're displayed like diamond necklaces and jewelers. Anything showing signs of imperfection is taken straight off the shelf. The fruits are grown to perfection, and they're sometimes even pollinated by hand in order to ensure taste and nutrients will exceed expectations. So whilst looking brilliant, and they're meant to taste amazing as well. So these are there to be eaten too. So if fresh represents luxury, could we start to see this here in the UK as consumers are in a constant search for newness, with innovation being top of mind? So we go back to the 18th century, and we saw fresh luxury was actually already having a moment. It was considered fashionable to get closer to nature. And so we saw the rise of dairies created for pleasure in the upper classes. So Hubert Robert, who was a landscaper, was actually enlisted to create a pleasure dairy for Marie Antoinette, which you can see here, in order for her to taste milk, which was a very fashionable thing to do at the time. And this folly was beautifully designed to hold dairy products, and it boasted a fake grotto displaying the nymph Amalthea and featured plenty of white marble to meet the white aesthetic of milk. So a beautiful piece of architecture just purely for drinking milk in. In modern culture, we've seen fruit and veg make its way into fashion. Loewe wove radishes and ginger into silk sets for its autumn-winter 2024 collection. And also put vegetable sculptures in store windows in Saks Fifth Avenue. So fresh produce has made its way into high fashion, and so it only makes sense that the future could see architects rethinking pleasure dairies of the 18th century for today's high net worth individuals. So we started to think about, well, what really defines fresh luxury? We think this is about a lack of human intervention in food. So food that's freely treated in this like godlike fashion and being touched only by certified food handlers who must wear gloves in order to prevent human bacteria intervening with the growth of food. It's about transparent food systems, so knowledge being power, and meaning that this means providing consumers with up-to-the-minute information as to the journey of their fresh food and bringing a new meaning really to ultimate provenance. And it's also about being hyper-local. So we know that Carlos Moreno introduced the 15-minute city back in 2016, so a whole decade ago. And that was the idea that residents can get everything they need within a 15-minute walk. So will we see a 15-minute food thrive as consumers seek out foods that are grown within a 15-minute walk of their current location? So how will these three factors show up within food and drink? Well, we think we'll see high-low culture being redefined through food. High culture being the start of the food chain, whereas low culture might be the end of the food chain. So this might show up as the aforementioned pleasure dairy, but made for the modern age. So architectural spaces designed by Frank Gehry's team to consume oat milk in, with premium ticket prices. And at the other end of the scale, we'll see affordable recycling cafes where food made from other food is consumed. So food status will really be based on the levels of human intervention, with a lack of human intervention being considered the most premium. We might also see harvest trackers, so real-time harvest tracking becoming the must-have app, taking over Uber and Deliveroo, so that our high net worth individuals can see exactly where the next apple drop will be in Harrods, and being able to track which farm it has actually come from and how much or how little human intervention it has been through on that journey. We then think we might see old ingredients revived. So as we lean heavily towards whole food, hyperlocal sourcing and British-grown produce, maybe this is a year that we start to look backwards. Chefs and growers are beginning to rediscover pre-industrial British agriculture. So ingredients that were actually once common, then abandoned, are actually looking for revival. So we'll see a renaissance for lost British ingredients, from things like skirret, which is a sweet white root, which was once used in Tudor kitchens, to Alexander's, which is a vegetable which was from Roman Britain, which has a bold and aromatic flavour. Or medlars, which is a very unusual ingredient, which requires controlled softening to become edible, but its complexity makes it a chef's dream comeback, and it has a flavour that's like spiced apple, date, and cocoa. So on to our fourth trend, disgraceful drinking and boomer drinkers. So in the UK, the US, China, Australia, those over the age of 50 are feeling rather neglected by brands, with 82% agreeing that ads and other marketing initiatives include too many outdated stereotypes around aging. We live in an age where life expectancy is continuing to grow, and this can only increase with people consuming less alcohol, exercising more, and filling their guts with probiotics and nootropics. Think of any drinks campaign, be it for sodas, wine, or rum, and you'll likely see campaigns targeted at millennials, Gen Z, or even Gen Alpha, who are alarmingly becoming of drinking age. Even whiskey, which is something that's been tended to link to stereotypes of older men, is now trying to target the younger market. But the boomer generation, the generation that was born between 1946 and 1964, making them 61 to 79, is actually often dubbed the forgotten generation. They're misstereotyped as being disinterested in anything new and old and frail. But take the BBC's latest drama, Riot Women, which sees 5 menopausal women starting a punk band to squash the stereotypes and to bring real-life issues to the fore. This cohort is speaking out, and while they don't have as much collective spending power as younger cohorts, they are an untapped market. According to Caroline Childs, boomers want to grow old disgracefully. They're thinking, I've done everything for everyone my whole life. Now I'm doing something for myself, and I don't want to compromise on what I want. What happens when we start to shift those demographics to that of a boomer? We must also remember that age doesn't define a person. When we look at Gen Z, we break that audience down into many subcultures and niche categories, from e-girls to gamers. So the same needs to be done for the boomer audience. By doing this, we can start to think about how the future of the drinks market might look like through a very different lens. So this isn't about offering nootropic-filled drinks to slow down the aging process. We've read a BBC article on aging stating that some studies have shown that as women age, they begin to care less about their appearance, with some labeling their facial creases as badges of honor, showing that people want to age and they want to embrace it. Our boomer generation grew up through some of the most momentous cultural shifts in society, from living through the freedom of the 60s, the punk movement, witnessing the changes that the microwave brought to households, sampling the first ever baby sham, which was the first ever alcohol to actually be advertised on TV in the UK. This generation is a generation of innovation, of freedom, of change, and so it only makes sense that we offer up innovative ideas with a twist of nostalgia to them. So how might this show up across food and drink? We'll see the not tired alcohol category. So we'll see alcohol brands shift focus for categories to pivot towards drinks served for boomers. Think energy inducing cocktails for those who want to relish the night out. And you can see our Future of Nightlife report for more on that. To reframe stubby sized beers that offer the joy of a beer but without the weightiness of a pint. We'll see the revival of classic beverages that have a nostalgic feel, aimed solely at this generation. So from baby sham cocktails to Bowls apricot brandy infused desserts. And we might even see a retirement home drinks trolley. So we've seen retirement homes designed by fantastic architects. So this is Willunga House, which just was designed by Reuben French Kennedy. So why not look at the experiences that were within a retirement home? Retirement home residents deserve to experience the drinks activations that you might see in central London, albeit skewed to this audience. So why not create beautiful drinks trolleys that can deliver the best in class of new drinks and their associated experiences straight into the centre of retirement homes? And so with that, I'm going to hand you back over to Bambi to introduce our next food sample or drink sample of the night.
So we've created a hot toddy jelly. I think when I think of my parents, especially, my mom used to always have a hot toddy. That was a favorite cocktail. So, I think there's a lot of playfulness around jelly, and Bombers and Power famously love a bit of jelly. So we thought we'd put a little bit of a more fun spin on a classic cocktail, which famously boomers enjoy, but I think a lot of people do. It's a great drink. Who knows, in the future you might sort of see these able to dissolve in a hot water that you could enjoy in the afternoon. So it can either be a drink or a little jelly, whatever you fancy, really. I hope you enjoy it. And there is whiskey in it, so enjoy that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bambi. We'll just take a moment while you all enjoy your hot toddy jellies and talk amongst yourselves for a minute while these are passed around. Okay. They're all gluten-free as well. How's everyone finding their jellies? Are they delicious, nostalgic, and warming? Okay, so that brings us into a nice segue into our next trend of the evening, new night sips. I hope you're all enjoying those hot toddies. So we've been looking at the future of drinking in the evening. So since the introduction of gin palaces, which informed what is now the traditional pub, to gastropubs, and now immersive drinking experiences, what we expect from a night out is really changing, and this is going to inform what we drink in the future. So the traditional pint measures what was created to provide a standardized measure for selling beer, preventing customers from being shortchanged by tavern keepers. So if pints were created for taverns, what might be created for future nocturnal activities? So the imminent future of how we spend our evenings is kind of splitting and varying. And this chart kind of goes from where we've been kind of in the past with traditional pubs and bars through to gastropubs. And we're now kind of split between two tensions. So from immersive drinking experiences, where we've got playful experiences like mini golf, experimental excellence bars, where phones are really at the center of the experience to capture the fun, to lo-fi drinking experiences like food halls, house-themed parties. Lab 54 is an amazing example who's bringing house parties to the masses. Where phones really take a backseat to make way for authentic fun. And as you can see kind of from the tension here, it's really split between those kind of highly polished immersive experiences where the story is very much already written for you. And to lo-fi authentic experiences where you write the story. So we're seeing this kind of as a split between story doing versus story making. So that's what's driving people into their nights out. So go further into our future, and as we see the work-life balance shift with more flexible working hours and Gen Z or Gen Alpha adopting alternative nighttime activities, and we'll see an even greater need to redefine what we drink at night. According to Booking.com, 62% of travellers are actually considering visiting dark sky noctourism destinations in 2026. We also know that Gen Z drinks 35% less than millennials at the same age who are embracing sober, curious lifestyles. So the way we drink and what we drink is changing. And so what we're actually putting onto our menus and where we serve it needs to shift in order to adapt to this changing audience. So if the environments that we are drinking in are changing, then the drinks that we consume must change to keep up. So what does this mean for the future of food and drink? Well, we'll see more high-function cocktails, so cocktails made for those alternative nocturnal activities, from vitamin A-laced martinis that help with seeing in the dark for nighttime bird watching, to lion's mane-infused old fashions to help improve cognitive focus while playing a game of chess at night. We might look at microdosing, those kind of high-strength alcohols. So absinthe is really said to open up the mind. With more and more consumers tapping into the trend for microdosing, what if we saw the way alcohol was consumed in a very different way? What if you could microdose the most potent alcohols like absinthe to feel some of the effects but without the hangover? Would this ever be acceptable during working hours in order to open the minds up for creative brainstorming? We'll see the 24-hour coffee shop, 24/7 coffee shop, I should say, which adapts and caters for people throughout the day, with coffees at night being served with higher caffeine content and adaptogens. Coffee will see a new nighttime market burgeoning as Gen Z stay up for late activities like gaming and midnight yoga. We'll see innovation in how that drink is served, so taking inspiration from energy drink cans that are already associated with gaming, or from blended juices that are associated with yoga. And dream juice, when talking about new ways of drinking at night, the mind often springs to alcohol. But what if we reframed juices for the night? Will we see supermarkets selling melatonin-fueled juices specifically made to help you sleep better, or even juices made to inspire dreams? So I think you can see from this, it's all about looking at kind of what we're going to be doing in the night and how that's going to affect, as I say, what we're serving in bars. Are we even serving our drinks in bars anymore? Are we serving them at chess clubs? And are we microdosing absinthe while we're playing our chess? So we're going to end on something a little different for this year's Future of Food and Drink presentation. This last trend is all about beans on toast, creative burnout, and the anti-trend. So for the last few years, the speed of creative output has really vastly accelerated thanks to the development of AI technologies, which in turn has created a human need for newness that's really never been seen at this rate before. When I was thinking about this, I was thinking about nail art. So every day, the algorithm will deliver a new version of a brown nail, from donut nails to latte nails, tricking the consumer into thinking they must purchase another shade of brown and wear it slightly differently to how they wore it the week before in order to keep up with trends. So this trend for ultra-fast trends spans across all industries. In drinks, we've seen adaptogen after adaptogen hitting the headlines. In food, we've seen the fast turnover of kind of pistachio-based everything seeping across luxury markets through to supermarkets. It almost seems impossible to switch on emails or social media without being hit with another new trend. Food trends were kind of once driven really by local cuisines. So you go to France to taste delicious pastries, Italy for its pesto, and Greece for its feta-drenched dishes. And those countries would do it best and in the most traditional sense. Now that everyone has a camera in their pocket and the ability to share these cuisines to thousands within seconds, those foods have been studied, copied, and mastered in other parts of the world, but with modern twists. So you're probably all very familiar with this image. This was the viral trend for baked feta pasta, and it apparently started in 2018 in Finland, creating a feta shortage before being posted on TikTok, and it gained 600 million views. So this is bred what we're calling internet cuisine. So foods that don't necessarily have a provenance, but are well loved across the world. Their home is the internet, and they were likely created with the visual frenzy of the internet in mind. So we've shifted from heroing the hyper-local to heroing the hyper-global. That's not something new, but when you look at it in the context of what this is doing to everyone on a creative and physiological level, you start to see this kind of monster that's being created. So are we on a cusp of creative implosion as creatives are fighting to beat the algorithm? I really enjoy reading Matt Klein's articles. He's a very good cultural strategist who really kind of looks at the world around us. And he believes we are nearing the end of the human creator economy, stating that creators are affected by the algorithm, citing it as having a serious effect on life. Can humans keep on top of the strive for daily newness? 10 years ago, trend analysts spoke about Gen Z as having this 8-second attention span. It's all we heard about for a while, and we were told we needed to adapt to fulfill that trait. But it seems now we've adapted so well that we've generated 8-second trends, sometimes interesting, but instantly forgettable. So is a collective creative burnout approaching? During individual burnout, the remedy is to pause, switch off, nourish the body. Are we approaching a mass state of idleness as we all need to put a pause on both creating and following trends? Do we all need a collective reset? So how is this going to show up across food and drink? Beans on toast. So we see a sharp turn in favour of the anti-trend. Beans on toast is an anti-trend that speaks to creative burnout via the medium of a simple plate of beans on toast. Are beans on toast the future antidote for a mind that's been exhausted by endless scrolling? Is it a back-to-basics approach to food that also speaks of nostalgia and coping mechanisms around kidulthood? It's an approach that feels genuinely authentic and no nonsense in an age of noise. Beans on toast will allow for the collective reset that we all need. However, a watch out. If Beans on Toast ends up on social media, with thousands posting their idol status through the visual of a plate of juicy tomatoey beans, we could turn the anti-trend into a trend, with AI hooking its claws into the data and transforming Beans on Toast into a viral trend, hashtag Beans on Toast, with copious variants. So we've created one of these copious variants that we might see way in the future. So we're going to hand around some internet beans, which I'm going to pass over to Bambi to speak through her creation of future beans.
Thank you. Just to say, there is also dairy in these beans. So sorry about that. We were sort of just looking at how far can you take a baked bean, and at what point does it not really feel the comfort that we really crave anymore. So we made some miso with baked beans and made that into a cracker using some more baked beans, and then made a homemade sort of take on baked beans juice puree to go on top of that, and some very delicious cheese. It's very far from what beans on toast in my eyes should be, but I hope it sort of accentuates Alex's message that maybe we should just stick to a bit of bad white bread and some tin beans. Yeah.
Thank you, Bambi. So we're going to hand those round. And obviously, we are kind of reaching the cynical side of the anti-trend here. But there is something in the human need, we think, for this anti-trend, for this reset, for this pause and this stop. And let's just kind of hero that simple plate of beans on toast. And we also know that a plate of beans happens to be full of protein, and that is something that we all want these days. So even our internet beans are full of wonderful protein as well. I'll just pause there while we hand out the rest of our internet beans before we summarize the trends that you've heard tonight. Wonderful. So while everyone finishes those mouthfuls of internet beans, we'll just finish off on that summary of where we've gone through today. So we started off with TV dinners, those TV-lined cafes, the idea of Netflix coming into the home via the humble TV dinner. We went into the gastro void, and you all tasted some edible film, which hopefully didn't fill you up and left room for your hot toddy and your internet beans. And we went into fresh luxury dystopia, where we looked at Marie Antoinette's pleasure dairies and the idea that is the future of luxury around freshness, with the freshest fruit and vegetables only being for the elite. We explored new night sips, this idea of new nocturnal activities kind of shaping what we're serving and how we're drinking in bars. Boomer drinking. So we looked at those disgraceful drinkers. We mustn't forget that generation. They're a very important generation that has lived through so many cultural moments. So it's only fair that we deliver drinks, ideas and serves and trends to that generation. And then we've just finished off on the anti-trends, that beans on toast, which I think is a reflection of what's happening in culture today. As I said at the beginning, consumption is culture. What's happening in culture is being reflected into food and drink, and vice versa. So thank you all for listening tonight. Again, please tag us on social media if you've liked what you've seen today. Send us some photos of your own beans on toast if you go home and make some tonight. That'd be wonderful. As I said, this report's been delivered via our Sense Tank. So this is our new consultancy arm. We're aiming to disrupt thinking. We're looking into extraordinary worlds. So you'll see more about that on our website. Sign up to our newsletter and follow us on Instagram as well, please. That would be fantastic if you don't already do that. I think we've got maybe 5 minutes for some Q&A. So I'm going to hand over to Sam to to manage that, and I will answer as best I can.
First of all, a big round of applause to Alex and Bobby! I hope, like you, being inspired about this here, inspired about the future, inspired about what you learn, and fizzing with ideas. But first of all, fizzing with questions. Before we get into those questions, well, got a good fizzing going on here. Before we get going on with the questions, there's one piece of admin as well. And I was looking at that, and I feel a little bit like having the thirst of a boomer trapped in an increasingly middle-aged man's body, but still with that thirst. If you too have that thirst and want another drink afterwards, please keep your glass, because we're running out the glasses at the bar. Bring it back to the bar, and they'll fill it up for you, because we've not run out of the drinks yet. So hold that thought. Hopefully now, if you put your hand up, Mimi is going to deliver a microphone to you. And remember, there's that great prize to be won for the best question as well. So, do we have any questions yet so far? Yeah, just over there.
Thank you.
One trend that I'm experiencing through my own kids at the moment, and I'm seeing it more and more now, is their appetite, literally appetite for food and different foods. And I think it's because of YouTube and all the little chefs on YouTube, and then also the rise in Deliveroo dinners with your family, and so they're getting much more exposure to lots more different foods. Have you guys talked about the role of kids and food and where that's going, and where we could play in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we often talk about children being the best creative directors. And I think when it comes to food and drink, that could be a very interesting territory to tap into. And I think quite rightly, as you say, they are being delivered much more information than we ever were as kids through the internet. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. But I think obviously hands-on food experiences are the best. So kind of getting kids into the kitchen, maybe as creative directors of food, is kind of the way forward. But yeah, I mean, we have to keep an eye on what kids are doing. They are our future. And, I think they are, be it good or bad, they're consuming so much culture at that vast kind of accelerated rate. I think any kind of ideas on foods that kids have are going to be with so much information behind it that we're going to have to listen to them. Not employ young children, but yeah, interesting question. Thank you.
Any more? Stick your hands up as well. There was one just there, the next row back.
Hello, Alex, and thank you. That was a really tremendous presentation, really inspiring. I'm really interested in aroma, and I wonder what sort of role you see aroma bringing to these trends, because all of them are less if they don't have a good smell. So do you think about that? Do you think aroma is going to be important? How might that affect some of the trends you've mentioned this evening?
Yeah, it's a really good point. And when we're looking at any kind of responses to creative briefs that we undertake, and when we write about reports like these, senses are very much at the heart of our thinking, hence Sense Tank as well. We're looking at all kind of 5 senses, and that 6th sense of interoception. But I think smell does play a crucial role. We know that smell links to memory, and without memory, everything is forgotten. But smell, I think, with things like TV dinners is hugely important. If we're looking at creating emotion through those TV dinners that matches kind of what you're watching on screen, smell plays a huge role in that. Fresh luxury dystopia, the smell of those kind of square watermelons is going to be kind of really up there. So yes, absolutely. Smell is so integral to all of these trends, even down to beans on toast. If they don't smell right, then you're not going to have that hit of nostalgia. We've probably got time for one more, I think.
I think we can do 2 more. I think
Two,
two more. And also that was a lovely segue for that question to a plug for our next event as well, which is going to be on the 30th. If you come along, we're doing a smell along. Haven't gone to the terminology of it yet. but it's going to be scratch and sniff karaoke, where there are different sets, and we're going to play our pipe organ. And then as you sing, you're going to be, because you're getting a lot of like air passing over the olfactory epitheliums, you'll be able to smell a lot as well. So pop along. It's on the 30th. We'll release details after this. I was going to come, there's actually two people I've promised questions to here. So first, yourself.
Hi. Yeah, just looking at the range of trends that we've been discussing, or you've been introducing us to, arguably 5 out of the 6 involve processed or ultra-processed foods. Do you feel there's a potential, that there is the potential for maybe a backlash against the demonization of processed foods because it's such a part of daily life and our food model?
Yeah, I mean, ultra processed foods are somewhat unavoidable. They're affordable. I've got 2 small children who eat potato waffles straight from the freezer when I have no time to cook them a meal from scratch. Who does? But yeah, I think ultra processed foods will still be around, but maybe it's looking at the nutritious content kind of behind them and trying to do what we can to make them more nutritious for young children. Looking at those kind of, how we were looking at new night sips with the inclusion of more vitamins with alcohol. I think we might see the same with those kind of ultra processed foods as well. Yes, yeah.
So we've got one more question just behind you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. I'm really interested in wearables, specifically AR glasses. We're moving from screens to AR glasses. I'm wondering how you're thinking about integrating that into your work, particularly TV dinners and the new campfire. How could that support those experiences?
It's interesting, and I think the role of the glasses means that you don't need to be sat on a sofa watching TV. It's going to allow movement and allow for maybe more kind of sensory interactions as well. So whilst with TV dinners, we're talking about being sat on a sofa with a tray in front of you that you consume and you experience feelings through the foods that we're giving you. You eat your tray at the end. If you're wearing a pair of glasses, you don't need the tray. Is there something that's much more kind of interactive that allows you to move around, eat, and have probably even more kind of sensory experience?
Great. Well, I think that's us wrapping up. Thank you all for the very, very brilliant questions. Thank you everyone for coming as well. Hopefully you've already met some interesting people. I exhort you now to mingle on, meet some more interesting people. You're the people we like the most. Thank you for coming. There's some brilliant people here as well. I hope that sparks something. And then finally, a really big round of applause to everyone for Bambi and for Alex for such inspiring ideas. Hopefully you're set for your 2026. Now, I know there's one more important bit of business. Those question askers will be thinking now, who's got the big prize? Let me confer for a second with Alex about who might be the winner. Do you want to announce it, Alex?
Okay, so the sea monkeys. Apparently it's easy. You just add water to create your own ocean zoo. The world's only instant pets are going to go to the TV dinner question. Congratulations. Enjoy your sea monkeys.
So keep up the froth of curiosity. The bar is now open. Take your glass. We've got about an hour more in this space. And then we're going to be on and we're starting to think about the next things that we're doing in 2026. Hopefully you are as well. Thank you for coming. Good night.
Thank you.